The movie commences with a horrifying image of a girl depicted on a poster bearing the phrase, "Do you care?" Following this, we are introduced to Shuri, a young single mother who is employed as a secretary at a law firm in Los Angeles. Shuri engages in a conversation with the HR manager, expressing her concerns regarding the missing girls who had been working at the company. The HR manager endeavors to reassure Shuri, convincing her that there is no need to be apprehensive, as these occurrences are merely tactics aimed at tarnishing the firm's reputation. After this, he assures Shuri that he will look into the situation and figure out what he can do to help. After this, Shuri leaves the office and engages in her routine tasks at the office. As the story unfolds, we glimpse various women working in the same office, implicitly connecting them to the missing girls. Ultimately, Shuri is seen seated at her familiar desk. These girls along with Shuri seem highly dedicated to their work. On her way back from work, Shuri takes a bus and receives a frantic call from her boss, James, accusing her of inadvertently double booking him for dinner with a significant client and his anniversary dinner, both scheduled for the same time. Perplexed, Shuri asserts that she has no recollection of such an error. So, James asks her to go to dinner with the client instead of him as he has to attend his anniversary dinner. Despite her hesitations, Shuri reluctantly agrees to attend the dinner with the client. During this, a strange man comes near her and touches her inappropriately. This makes Shuri uncomfortable, and she decides to get off the bus immediately. Upon returning home, Shuri, while in the midst of taking a shower, discovers that her period has unexpectedly started and she is out of tampons. Then, she sees her daughter holding one of the last tampons, but she throws it in the toilet. Now, while Shuri is waiting for the babysitter to come, she reads her daughter a story in bed and puts her to sleep. During this, her babysitter named Anita, who is also her friend, arrives and Shuri rants about messing up the schedule of her boss and almost losing her job. However, Anita cheers her up, and after looking at the picture of the client, who looks like a young handsome guy, Anita suggests that she should dress provocatively for the dinner. After getting ready, Shuri arrives at the client's house, named Ethan, and is captivated by his charming personality. By the lavish look of his house, Ethan seems like a rich client and Shuri is thrilled by him. Then, Ethan offers her a drink and tells her that it is the only kind of drink he can make, and Shuri should remember this and every other thing that he is going to say after this. And Shuri agrees. As she sips it, Shuri notices a drop of blood on the floor, which she discreetly wipes away with her finger. Then, she requests permission to use the restroom. When Shuri gets back, Ethan takes her to his terrace, and they look at the stars through his telescope. The evening looks like a date rather than a meeting, and Shuri seems to be enjoying every minute of it, impressed by Ethan's charm. After this, Ethan escorts Shuri to the dinner, where they share a pleasant time. Suddenly, an unexpected dog attack on Ethan triggers an outburst of anger, and he vehemently scolds the canine. Subsequently, he extends an apology to Shuri and confides in her about a childhood experience involving a dog attack. Moved by his vulnerability, Shuri shares pictures of her daughter, prompting Ethan to praise her daughter and express his admiration for Shuri as well. Upon leaving Ethan's residence following the dinner, he offers Shuri another drink, though she is initially reluctant, considering her need to return home and attend work the following day. However, Ethan persists, and assures her that he'll wake her up, even setting an alarm for 6:30 in the morning. Notably, Shuri notices that he already has an alarm set for 5:25, which Ethan claims is a mistake. As their conversation unfolds, they share a kiss. However, their moment is disrupted when Shuri's entrance into the house is captured on a security camera. Ethan, acknowledging the camera, raises his hand and enters the house, promptly closing the door behind him. As the door shuts, the sound of Shuri's distressing screams can be heard from outside. After some time, she emerges from the house, visibly injured and crying, and begins to run while calling out for help. Unfortunately, her cries go unanswered as passersby remain indifferent. Shuri gets desperate and continues running until she encounters two women standing in front of a movie theater. She implores them for assistance, prompting them to call 911 on her behalf. One of the women immediately calls for help and the police arrive in no time. However, in a surprising turn of events, despite Shuri's insistence that she was the police officers take her into custody on charges of public intoxication. While in the holding cell, Shuri meets another woman who is in the same cell as her. Feeling completely hopeless and confused, Shuri sits down on the floor, and the woman inquires about her ordeal. Shuri explains by Ethan, and the woman becomes terrified. She asks her if the man she is talking about made her a special drink and whether he is scared of dogs. When Shuri replies affirmatively, the woman gets even more terrified and begins screaming at the guards to let her out as Shuri might take her life. Shuri gets confused by this and asks the woman why she is doing this and what she knows about Ethan. The woman then warns Shuri that she's now marked, and Ethan will pursue her relentlessly since he possesses control over men. The woman tells her that a couple of days ago one of her friends had a similar experience with Ethan and now she is missing. Shuri gets scared for her life and the woman emphasizes that Shuri must seek help from the First Lady. After this, in a sudden outburst, the woman screams again and requests to be transferred to another cell, accusing Shuri of attacking her. After some time, Ethan enters Shuri's cell surprisingly, evoking fear in her. Shuri gets scared to see him there, and he mocks her saying that she showed up at his house wearing a provocative outfit, so she cannot expect herself to be spared now. Shuri begs him for her life and Ethan proposes a deal to her. He tells her that she will be released from the cell in a while, and he will allow her to run for her life. After that, he will hunt her all night, but if Cherie can survive the night, he will spare her and allow her to go free. During this, a police officer comes and tells Cherie that she has been bailed. Upon her release from the police station, Cherie discovers a missing woman's flyer on the ground. She immediately understands that Ethan is behind all the missing girls in these posters, and they must have gone through the same thing Cherie is going through right now. Cherie also gets the idea that the police department is with Ethan, so there is no point reporting him. Now, Cherie recalls the words of the woman she met earlier in her cell, and this urges her to contact the First Lady for help. But first, Cherie decides to take a cab to James' house. Upon picking her up from the police station, the cab driver remarks that she's not the only woman he's picked up in such a dire condition. Cherie gets even more terrified to hear his remarks and thinks that she might not survive the night. Upon arriving at James' house, he appears empathetic and expresses his shock at the horrible events Cherie endured at the hands of Ethan. He requests his wife, Judy, to make tea and intends to call Ethan to confront him, but Cherie urges him not to make the call, revealing her distress. While James's wife, Judy, nervously prepares tea, Cherie notices her reaction when James offers her to stay the night at their home. As Judy cuts a lemon, she makes an odd noise, and Cherie becomes suspicious. She asks if she can use the shower, and James allows Cherie to use his office shower. After cleaning herself, she comes out into James' room and sees his laptop resting on the table. She gets a little suspicious about James and decides to check his laptop. As she logs into the computer, she investigates the calendar, discovering an appointment note for February 7th with her name and Ethan. Further searches reveal numerous appointments for Ethan Todd with various women's names who have previously worked in her company, raising more suspicions. This makes Cherie realize that James is behind all of this and that everything was planned. During this, Judy enters the room and tries to warn Cherie, and it seems like Judy is already aware of the situation. She discloses that Ethan can detect the scent of blood, which is an incredibly powerful fragrance. Then, she advises Cherie to clean herself thoroughly if she wishes to survive. Just then, James enters the room, inquiring about the situation, and Judy starts pretending. She explains that she's providing Cherie with clean clothes. Cherie quickly understands this and thanks Judy. Then, she tells James that she needs to leave. She mentions calling her ex-boyfriend, Trey, to pick her up, but James expresses his disapproval of Trey. He asks her to stay the night in his place as she will be much safer, but Judy signals her to leave as soon as she can if she wants to live. So, Cherie disregards James' advice, rushing out of the building to catch a bus. She runs to a station nearby and gets on a bus. During the ride, Cherie asks the female bus driver for her phone, which is graciously provided. Suddenly, she notices James outside the bus, and it seems like he has followed him here to inform Ethan about her whereabouts. Cherie gets scared and sends a message to Trey, seeking help due to her predicament. While on the phone, Cherie spots another missing woman poster, which instructs her to contact the First Lady. After some time, Cherie disembarks at a gas station to purchase tampons, continuing her journey fraught with uncertainty and fear. Desperately needing tampons, Cherie pays for them by exchanging her watch and heads into the bathroom across the street. While she's in the bathroom, someone attempts to open the door. Upon exiting, Cherie is confronted by Ethan, who had been waiting. He seizes her and hurls her against a wall, then gazes at a security camera, signaling both yes and no. Nearby, a homeless man overhears Cherie's screams but remains passive. Suddenly, the store clerk from where Cherie had purchased the tampons emerges with a firearm, intending to defend her. However, Ethan turns back and gestures for him to retreat, so the man hastily departs. When Ethan refocuses on Cherie, she seizes the opportunity to take a brick, strike him, and bolts away. On her way, she encounters Trey across the street, who inquires about her well-being and destination. Cherie, overwhelmed by fear, provides only vague responses. She expresses her at the sight of every person she encountered. Then, Cherie confides in Trey, disclosing her desire to go to his house. Trey inquires about the whereabouts of their daughter, and Cherie reassures him that their child is safe with a babysitter. During this, it is revealed that Cherie and Trey broke up as Trey was cheating on her with her best friend Dawn. Before going to the house, Trey mentions that Cherie's ex-best friend, Dawn, who is now her girlfriend, is at his home. As they converse, Cherie spots a shadow resembling Ethan in the darkness, causing her distress. The sound of a gunshot further heightens their anxiety. Cherie pleads with Trey not to investigate, but he exits the car to assess the situation, leaving Cherie alone in the vehicle. Suddenly, the car door opens, startling Cherie. It's Trey, who reassures her that the situation is under control. Cherie, petrified and injured, desires to leave, but Trey insists on learning the details of her ordeal and the reason for her fear. Cherie finally divulges the terrifying truth to Trey about the attack by Ethan and how he's relentlessly pursuing her. Trey re-enters the car, requesting Ethan's address and inquiring whether it was a date. After this, Cherie clarifies that it was initially a meeting that unexpectedly turned into a date. Upon arriving at Trey's home, Dawn sees Cherie and she angrily exits the house. But upon witnessing Cherie's dire condition, her anger gives way to empathy, and she invites Cherie inside. Inside, Dawn's friends are also present, and Cherie requests the use of the restroom to freshen up. Cherie asks Trey to purchase tampons for her, and he reassures her that the incident was not her fault. After cleansing herself, Cherie approaches Dawn's son, Nolan, who is a tarot card reader, and asks if he can read her cards. He reads the cards and suggests that she should consider attending church. Nolan also observes that Cherie possesses strength and resilience. At that moment, the doorbell rings, and to Cherie's dread, it's Ethan searching for her. Cherie implores Dawn not to answer the door, but Dawn insists on confronting the situation, asking Cherie to take Nolan with her into the house. Cherie retreats inside, hiding in the bathtub with Nolan. Suddenly, they hear a tumult of noises and gunshots. When the cacophony subsides, Cherie emerges to survey the aftermath. Tragically, she encounters the lifeless bodies of Dawn and her friends, while Ethan savors the music. He then takes Cherie's hand and coerces her into dancing with him, all while Cherie sobs. Meanwhile, Trey, who had ventured outside to purchase tampons, returns to the scene. Cherie pleads with him not to say anything, but as Trey begins to inquire if Ethan is the assailant, Ethan brutally decapitates, leaving Cherie in utter shock and horror. Terrified, Cherie watches as Ethan holds Trey's, his gaze fixed upon her. She bolts, and Ethan follows closely. As she reaches the end of the tunnel, she spots Ethan in pursuit. Suddenly, a car appears and collides with Ethan, leaving Cherie in disbelief. However, Ethan's body inexplicably stirs after the collision. Recalling Judy's advice about blood scent, Cherie swiftly tosses her tampons onto a passing vehicle down the bridge, hoping to divert Ethan's attention. Ethan rises and scans the tunnel but fails to locate Cherie, eventually walking away. It is revealed that Cherie was still hiding in the tunnel and Ethan could not spot her. After successfully getting rid of Ethan, Cherie notices a nearby church and seeks refuge within. As she enters the church, she is relieved to find the priest, believing that he might help her. She approaches the priest and requests a cross and holy water, explaining her desperate situation involving Ethan. However, the priest encourages her to confess her sins, a request that bewilders Cherie. During their conversation, Cherie becomes aware of her own bleeding, believing that Ethan has found her. However, the priest assures her that it's just the two of them. She gets suspicious and takes a few steps back from the priest. Suddenly, she encounters the real priest lying in a pool of his blood, leaving her in shock. She turns around to discover Ethan standing there, disbelievingly asserting that he cannot be in a church. However, Ethan counters by expressing his love for cathedrals. As Cherie throws holy water on him, Ethan screams before breaking into sinister laughter. He challenges her belief in him, and in response, Cherie expresses how she does not believe in him. Ethan then undergoes a horrific transformation, turning into a demon, causing Cherie to scream. Then, he attempts to strangle her. But the seemingly incapacitated old priest, who is not truly deceased, intervenes, urging Cherie to escape through a tunnel within the church's wall. The priest stabs Ethan's neck with the cross and diverts his attention from Cherie. Ethan drags the priest while Cherie enters the dark tunnel, and her panic cries echo. She eventually emerges from the tunnel and encounters a flight of stairs leading to a disco. Inside the disco's restroom, she discovers bleach wipes and hastily cleans herself, eradicating traces of her blood. Then, she finds some clean clothes and changes her getup to blend in with the crowd. Upon leaving the bathroom, she once again encounters a missing girl flyer, prompting her to tear off the part containing the First Lady's phone number. Cherie then pilfers a cell phone and dials the number from the flyer, expressing her desire to meet the First Lady. As she attempts to exit the establishment, some menacing individuals attempt to. They surround Cherie and try to tease her. Fortunately, two courageous girls appear out of nowhere to her rescue, whisking her away in their car. These jovial girls exuberantly celebrate it as Women's Year and inform Cherie that the sun will rise at 5:25 in the morning. The girls dance with elation in the car and invite Cherie to surf, but Cherie suddenly notices blood on her forehead. Then, she realizes that her blood must have attracted Ethan, and he will be here any minute now. Suddenly, a dreadful accident occurs as Ethan attacks their car, plunging everything into darkness, and Cherie finds herself surrounded by the lifeless bodies of the girls from the car. Ethan approaches, threatening to harm Cherie. Then, he discloses his intention to care for her daughter once she's gone and attempts to pull her out of the car. Out of nowhere, a dog appears and barks at Ethan, then leaps at him, causing Ethan to vanish. Then, the dog turns its attention to Cherie, showing her affection. Now, Cherie gets to her feet, beholding the wreckage around her, and succumbs to despair, unleashing a harrowing scream. After this, she commences walking alongside the dog, who leads her to a nearby building. Cherie enters the building, where a woman welcomes her inside, revealing an eerie red light illuminating the surroundings. Cherie enters a room filled with women lying in beds, some women practicing martial arts, and a lady who welcomes her. She questions if the woman is the First Lady, to which she responds that Cherie can call her Dina. After this, Dina comes up with a plan and asks Cherie for a small bottle of her blood, which will be mixed with water and poured into the drainage pipes to spread her scent, making it challenging for Ethan to avoid her. Cherie hesitates to do so and tells Dina that she has a daughter to look after and therefore she cannot risk her life. However, Dina says that if Cherie does not take this challenge now, then Ethan will continue to hunt her daughter after her and millions of other girls. So, he needs to be stopped right now. Cherie gives it a thought and agrees to go with the plan. She willingly hands over the blood to Dina. However, she gets a little curious and inquires how Dina knows that Ethan can detect her scent. Dina shares her purpose with Cherie and reveals that she was sent into the world to stop Ethan. She explains that Ethan is a fallen angel and his role was originally to protect and guide humanity. but he deviated from his mission, ensuring that men retain power and oppressed women throughout history. With the balance of power now shifting, it's time to dismantle his tyrannical rule. Shuri then wonders if Dina is an angel, to which Dina responds that she is the first angel. After this, Dina asserts their intention to confront Ethan tonight, and urges Shuri to lure him out so they can pursue him. Dina emphasizes Shuri's uniqueness and resilience, highlighting that she's the only one who has come this far in the night. Then, Shuri questions if Dina is the first angel, and holds such immense powers, then why can't she go out and confront Ethan herself? To this, Dina discloses that she can't bleed, and therefore, it's impossible for her to lure Ethan out. After this, the women prepare Shuri for the fight, cleaning her wounds and helping her get dressed. She heads out to confront Ethan. Arriving at an abandoned mall, she scatters rocks and covers the windows with black spray paint. Now, to attract Ethan's attention, she opens her wounds, allowing her scent to disperse. She even removes her tampon. Suddenly, the mall's lights illuminate, and the merry-go-round starts moving by itself, signifying the imminent confrontation with Ethan. Ethan suddenly materializes, forcefully slamming Shuri's head against a mirror, causing her to lose consciousness. In her unconscious state, she dreams of a happier time, playing with her daughter on the same merry-go-round. Ethan awakens Shuri from her dream, only to find her crucified. Despite her dire situation, Shuri notices a nearby rock and resigns herself to Ethan's advances, acknowledging that she has no chance against him. Ethan complies with her request to be released and attempts to be intimate with her. While he's preoccupied, Shuri seizes the opportunity to grab the rock near her foot. It is revealed that Shuri is waiting for Ethan's alarm to ring, indicating that the sun has risen. When Ethan's alarm rings, Shuri takes the rock in her hand, prompting Ethan to suspect that she's attempting to trick him. Shuri manages to break a nearby window with the rock, allowing sunlight to shine on Ethan's face, and he quickly moves aside. Angered by her attempt, he tries to choke Shuri. However, more rocks come crashing through the windows, flooding the area with sunlight. Due to the sunlight shining bright through the holes, Ethan screams in agony, and a black substance begins oozing from his eyes. In his pain, he berates Shuri, calling her names. After this, Shuri takes a bucket filled with rocks and smashes the window in front of Ethan, intensifying the sunlight. Ethan begins crawling out to save himself from the sunlight, and he grows weaker and weaker. The sunlight causes Ethan immense suffering, and Shuri confronts him about his powerless state in the daylight. Shuri then mocks Ethan the same way he mocked her in the beginning, when she was powerless and vulnerable to him. During this, Dina arrives, witnessing the scene. She ignites a lighter and throws it into Ethan's blood, which catches fire, causing him excruciating pain. He ultimately succumbs to the flames, crying out in agony. This marks an end to the long, terrifying history of Ethan controlling the men and mistreating the women once and for all. Dina and the girls admire Shuri for her bravery, and Shuri immediately goes back to her house to check on her daughter. Shuri reaches the babysitter's home and cradles her baby in her arms, symbolizing her triumph over Ethan's reign of. The film concludes with this victorious and heartwarming moment.